I'm leaving you for your sister. The words hit the room like a sudden blast, frozen in that split second before the pain truly landed. My husband of 17 years, Jason, stood at the head of our anniversary dinner table with a champagne glass lifted high, as if he were making a cheerful toast instead of publicly destroying our marriage. I could feel 20 pairs of eyes swing toward me all at once, waiting for the meltdown, the sobbing, the public scene they would gossip about for months. The restaurant fell into an uneasy silence. Even the waitstaff stopped moving, unsure whether to continue serving or quietly disappear. My name is Lydia Harmon, and at 42 years old, I had earned a name for myself as one of Boulder's most respected interior designers. I made a living turning cold, empty buildings into warm, livable homes. The irony was cruel. I hadn't noticed the emptiness growing inside my own marriage until this exact moment. I appreciate your honesty, I said calmly, even though everything inside me was shaking. I reached into my handbag, pulled out a thick manila folder, and laid it firmly on the spotless white tablecloth in front of him. Timing really is everything, isn't it? Jason's smug confidence slipped as his eyes dropped to the folder. What's this? He asked, his voice suddenly unsteady. Open it, I said as I stood up. I smoothed the fabric of my dress, a midnight blue gown I had bought especially for this night, and slowly looked around at our shocked friends and family. Sitting among them was my sister Vanessa. Her face had gone pale, and she couldn't bring herself to look at me. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, I said evenly. The bill has already been paid. Then I turned back to Jason one final time. I believe you'll find everything is handled properly. The sharp sound of my heels echoed against the marble floor as I walked away with my back straight and my head held high. Behind me, I heard papers shifting, then a choked sound escaped Jason's throat. I didn't turn around. When I stepped outside, the cool night air washed over me, and for the first time, I took a full, steady breath. My car was waiting with the valet. As I slid into the driver's seat, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked surprisingly calm for a woman whose entire life had just shattered. But the truth was, I had 3 months to prepare for this moment. It all started when I found the first message from Vanessa on Jason's phone. What neither of them realized was that Vanessa wasn't his only betrayal. And I had proof of everything: the secret affairs, the money he quietly drained from our accounts, the property he tried to transfer into his name alone, and worst of all, the plan they created to force me out of my own company. As I pulled away from the curb, a small smile touched my lips. The game had officially begun. Our story began the way so many do, with what felt like fate. Jason and I met at a home design exhibition where I was presenting my work. He was charming, attentive, and appeared genuinely interested in my designs. Unlike many men I had dated, he wasn't threatened by my drive or success. 2 years later, we married in a small ceremony at a mountainside venue overlooking Boulder. Vanessa stood beside me as my maid of honor, 7 years younger than me, but always my closest confidant. As she adjusted my veil, she whispered, "You found the perfect one." And I believed her completely. The first decade together was everything I hoped it would be. We built Harmon Interiors side by side, my creativity paired with his business sense. We bought a beautiful home in the hills, hosted dinner parties for friends, and built what I thought was a rock-solid life. The changes came quietly. Jason began staying at work later. He traveled more often. He grew distant in ways I couldn't fully explain. I convinced myself it was just the normal shift that happens in long marriages. When Vanessa moved back to Boulder after her divorce 3 years ago, she became a constant presence in our lives. With Jason gone so often, I leaned on her for support. He's just focused on expanding the business, she would tell me when I shared my worries. Men get like that. You know how they are. I buried myself in my work, designing comfort and beauty for others, while my own home slowly grew colder. The first real warning came when I overheard a quiet phone call. She has no idea, Jason whispered. Just stay on track with the plan. When I confronted him, he laughed and said he was preparing an anniversary surprise. I wanted to believe him. The truth felt too unbearable to face. Then came the strange charges on our business credit card, the weekend trips when he claimed to be at conferences, and the clearest sign of all, the growing closeness between him and Vanessa. The extra long hugs, the private jokes, the way their conversation stopped whenever I entered a room. Still, I waited for undeniable proof. It finally arrived in the form of a text message sent by mistake 3 months ago. Miss you already. Can't wait until she's out of the picture. That message hadn't been meant for Jason's phone. It landed on our shared iPad by mistake, and the sender was Vanessa. That very night, once Jason was fast asleep, I quietly slipped out of bed and made a phone call that would change everything. I contacted Patricia Donovan, the most feared and relentless divorce attorney in Colorado. By the next morning, I had already hired a private investigator. Collect everything, Patricia instructed me. Bank records, property documents, messages, photos. Nothing gets overlooked. And so, piece by painful piece, I began building my case. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It came in heavy, relentless waves, each one more crushing than the last. The investigator, Theo Weber, came to me with weekly reports, delivered with cold professionalism. He had no idea that every photo, every transcript, cut into me like a blade. The first discovery wasn't a surprise, but it still hurt deeply. Photos of Jason and Vanessa walking into a hotel together. More images of them leaving hours later, their clothes rumpled, their expressions smug and carefree. The text records showed the affair had been going on for nearly a full year. Every secret meeting had been carefully planned around my business trips and client appointments. Typical affair behavior, Theo said flatly as he slid the photos across his desk. But there's more. The second wave hit harder. Financial records revealed Jason had been slowly shifting money out of our shared accounts into one under his name only. At first, it was small amounts. Then the transfers grew larger as his confidence grew. By the end, he had quietly stolen nearly $300,000, money we had earned together, building Harmon Interiors. He's setting you up to be left with nothing, Patricia said when I showed her the reports. This wasn't an accident. This was planned. And that works in our favor. But it was the third discovery that completely destroyed whatever faint attachment I still had to the man I once loved. Theo uncovered proof of another woman. Not me, not Vanessa. Another woman entirely. They had been involved for at least 6 months. Her name was Olivia Winters, a client whose home we had redesigned the previous year. The photos of them together were intimate and undeniable. Your husband hasn't been wasting time, Theo said, his voice gentler than I'd ever heard it. I truly am sorry, Miss Harmon. The final blow landed just 2 weeks before our anniversary. Using his legal contacts, Theo obtained documents showing that Jason had tried to transfer full ownership of our mountain vacation property into his name alone. That home had been purchased using my inheritance money. The county clerk had stopped the transfer only because key signatures were missing. He's trying to completely strip you of everything, Patricia said during our final meeting, but we've caught him before he finished the job. That's when we put everything into motion. Quietly, I separated our business finances. I changed property records. I prepared the legal paperwork to dissolve both our marriage and our professional partnership. Patricia advised me to wait. Let him make the first move, she said. Once he shows his hand, it strengthens our position even more. What I never expected, what I couldn't have predicted, was that he would choose our anniversary dinner to make his announcement, surrounded by friends and family who had shared our lives for years. Looking back, I should have known. Jason had always loved the spotlight. He had a natural flair for dramatic moments. What he didn't expect was that I had already prepared for every possible betrayal, every lie, every scheme. All of it was carefully compiled inside the thick folder I placed in front of him, right in front of the very people whose praise and admiration he lived for. As I drove home from the restaurant, my phone buzzed non-stop with calls and messages. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I kept my eyes on the road ahead, on the house that would remain mine, on the business I had built and would now lead on my own. Tomorrow would bring chaos, but tonight, I was free. Tonight, I allowed myself to mourn what had been lost and to brace myself for what was ahead. To my own surprise, I slept deeply. It felt as though releasing months of buried secrets had lifted a real physical weight from my body. When morning came, sunlight poured through the bedroom windows, the same windows I had intentionally placed to catch the first light of dawn. For a brief, peaceful moment, I simply stood there and breathed. That calm shattered when my phone began to ring. Jason's name lit up the screen. It was only the first of what had now become 27 missed calls since I walked out of the restaurant. I silenced the phone once again and went to the kitchen to make coffee, moving slowly and on my own terms. Control over the situation was the only power I had left, and I wasn't about to give it up. At exactly 9 a.m., I placed a call to Patricia. "It's done," I said as soon as she answered. "He made his announcement last night. I left the folder for him." "Perfect," she replied without hesitation. "The divorce petition has already been filed. He'll be served within the hour." Almost on cue, the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Jason standing on our porch. He looked frantic and unkempt. His usually flawless hair stuck out at odd angles, and he was still wearing the same clothes from the night before. "He's here," I told Patricia. "Should I let him inside?" "That's up to you," she said. "Just remember, anything he says can be used in court. If you speak with him, record it." I ended the call, opened the door, but stepped forward to block the entrance. Up close, he looked even worse. His eyes were bloodshot. His face was pale and drawn. "Lydia," he started, his voice shaky. "We need to talk. This isn't what it looks like." "Which part?" I asked calmly. "The affair with my sister? The one with Olivia Winters? Or the money you've been stealing from our accounts?" He visibly recoiled when I said Olivia's name. "How did you—" "Does it matter?" I cut in. "I know everything, Jason. There's nothing left to explain." He pushed past me into the foyer, his panic filling the room. "Listen," he pleaded. "Vanessa was a mistake. Olivia meant nothing. You and I built a life together, 17 years. You can't just throw that away." "I didn't," I replied evenly. "You did, last night, in front of everyone we know." "I was angry," he argued. "You've been distant. All you care about is work." "Don't," I snapped, my control finally breaking. "Don't you dare blame me for your choices." Jason ran his hands through his hair and paced the entryway like a trapped animal. "What do you want?" he demanded. "Money? I'll put everything back. The mountain house, it's yours. Just call off the dogs." "The dogs?" I repeated. "Your lawyer already contacted me this morning," he said. "Dissolving the business partnership, dividing property. You're trying to destroy me." I laughed then, sharp and bitter, a sound that surprised both of us. "That's rich," I said coldly, "coming from the man who tried to put my inheritance property into his name alone." The doorbell rang again. This time, it was a professional-looking woman holding a folder of legal documents. "Jason Harmon?" she asked, peering past me. "That's him," I confirmed, stepping aside. "You've been served," she stated, handing him the envelope before turning and walking away. Jason stared at the papers, then slowly lifted his eyes to me as the truth settled in. "You planned all of this," he said quietly. "You knew before last night." 3 months, I admitted. "Not as long as you and Vanessa have been scheming. But I don't waste time." His expression darkened. Vanessa doesn't know about any of this, he said. About Olivia. About the money. She has no idea. I know, I replied. She thinks you're leaving me just for her. How special that must feel. She loves me, he said defensively. And Olivia? I asked. Does she love you too? Does she know she's the other woman? Jason's phone chimed with a text message. He glanced down at the screen, and whatever color was left in his face vanished completely. What did you do? He whispered. I haven't done anything yet, I replied calmly. But Theo Weber, my very dedicated private investigator, may have accidentally forwarded a few photographs to Vanessa this morning. Technology has a mind of its own sometimes. The screech of tires outside told me the storm had arrived. Vanessa burst through the front door without even knocking, her face twisted with fury and heartbreak. It was obvious she'd dressed in a rush, mismatched shoes, a sweater turned inside out, her hair yanked into a messy ponytail. She gripped her phone in her hand like a weapon. You lying bastard, she screamed at Jason, acting as if I didn't exist. Who the hell is Olivia? Jason's gaze darted between the two of us, clearly trying to calculate his next move. I quietly stepped back and leaned against the stair railing, watching the scene unfold. I knew this confrontation was coming. I just hadn't expected it this quickly. Theo must have sent the photos immediately after our last conversation. Vanessa, calm down, Jason said, raising his hands in a fake attempt at peace. I can explain. Explain? She shrieked, shoving her phone inches from his face. Explain why you're sleeping with this woman while telling me you love me, while promising we'd be together after you left Lydia. It's not what it looks like, he said desperately. The same line. The fact that he'd just said it to me moments earlier didn't seem to faze him at all. That's when Vanessa finally acknowledged my presence. She turned toward me slowly, her expression shifting through guilt, anger, and confusion. You knew? She asked quietly. About you and Jason? I said evenly. Yes. About Olivia? Yes. About the money he's been stealing from our business, the property he tried to take for himself, and the plans you two made to force me out of my own company. Yes. All of it. The blood drained from Vanessa's face. We didn't, she stumbled. She turned back to Jason. What is she talking about? Jason shot me a poisonous look. Don't listen to her. She's trying to turn us against each other. Without breaking eye contact, I walked to the dining room sideboard and returned with the neatly organized stack of documents I had prepared. Bank transfers, property records, full message logs, I said. The real ones, not the edited versions you showed her. Vanessa took the papers with trembling hands. As she read, her breathing quickened. Once she's gone, we can take Harmon Interiors nationwide, she read aloud from one message. Your design style, my business model, we'll make millions. Lydia is too tied to Boulder, too small-minded. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked up at him. You told me that was about an investor, she whispered. Not about me replacing my own sister. Jason stepped toward her. Baby, you don't understand. Don't call me that, Vanessa snapped, shrinking away. And the money you said you were saving for us to start over? I was, he insisted. Everything I did was for our future. Even Olivia? I added quietly. Vanessa flipped through the photographs, each image cutting deeper than the last. 3 weeks ago, she murmured, staring at a timestamp. You said you were in Denver meeting suppliers. She meant nothing, Jason begged. It was only physical. Vanessa laughed hollowly. The same way I was only physical in the beginning? Before you told me we were in love? The truth seemed to crash into her all at once. She staggered backward and dropped the documents onto the floor. For the first time since she stormed in, she really looked at me. Her older sister, the woman she had betrayed. Lydia, she started. I shook my head. Don't, I said softly. Not right now. A strange stillness settled over the room. Outside, life carried on as if nothing had happened. Birds chirping, neighbors walking their dogs, delivery trucks passing by. Inside, the three of us stood frozen in a moment thick with betrayal. Jason was the one who broke the silence. "This doesn't change anything," he said firmly, addressing both of us. "The divorce is still happening. The business will have to be divided. We'll sort out the rest later." That's when I smiled. Not a forced smile, a real one. And somehow, that seemed to unsettle him far more than anger ever could. "About that," I said calmly, "there won't be much left for you to divide." "What are you talking about?" Jason snapped, slipping back into his polished businessman tone. "Harmon Interiors is worth millions. The contracts alone are in my name now," I finished for him. As of last week, every active client was transferred to Lydia Harmon Designs. Funny how cooperative people become when they discover their designer's husband has been quietly stealing from the company. Jason's face twisted with fury. "You can't do that. We built that company together." "Actually, I can," I replied. Patricia had our partnership agreement reviewed by 3 separate attorneys. Remember the morality clause you insisted on when we signed with the Westbrook Group last year? It works both ways. You violated the contract. That gave me every legal right to dissolve the partnership and keep the clients. "This is insane," he stuttered. "No judge will allow this." "2 already have," I said evenly. "The temporary injunctions were approved yesterday. You no longer have access to the design studio, client files, or business accounts." Jason's phone suddenly started vibrating in his hand. He checked the screen and answered sharply. "What?" His expression shifted from rage to disbelief as he listened. "That's impossible. Check again." After a long pause, he ended the call without another word. "Trouble?" I asked lightly. "What did you do to the Aspen project?" he demanded. "That client just canceled a $2 million contract." "I didn't lift a finger," I replied. Apparently, the Thorntons weren't thrilled to learn their designer's husband was sleeping with Mrs. Thornton's sister. Awkward coincidence, wouldn't you say? Olivia really should have mentioned her family connections. Vanessa had been watching the exchange like a tennis match, her eyes bouncing back and forth between us. Now she began gathering her things, clearly ready to leave. "And where do you think you're going?" Jason snapped. "Home," she replied quietly, avoiding his eyes. "This is between you two now." "Don't kid yourself," he fired back. "You're just as involved as I am. Your texts, your plans for the company. You're not innocent here." Vanessa flinched. "I never planned to hurt Lydia financially," she said. "You told me we'd give her a fair buyout." "And you believed him?" I asked, genuinely curious after everything we now knew, after watching him betray his wife of 17 years. She had no answer. "For what it's worth," I continued, "I instructed Patricia not to include you in the divorce case. Whatever relationship you have with Jason now is your concern." Vanessa stared at me in shock. "Why would you do that?" "Because a public scandal would devastate our parents, and they've done nothing wrong," I said. "And because," I added quietly, "I have a feeling you'll suffer plenty without any help from me." Jason scoffed. "Always playing the martyr." "No," I corrected, always thinking ahead. "The story is already out there thanks to your dramatic announcement. I have no interest in fueling the rumors. I only want what's mine, and for both of you to vanish from my life." Jason's phone buzzed again. He ignored it. "This isn't over," he warned. "I'll fight you on every level." "You're free to try," I replied. "But before you do, you might want to speak with the Department of Financial Services. They're very interested in those unauthorized transfers from our business accounts." The color instantly drained from his face. "You reported me?" "No," I said. "Your assistant, Gretchen, did, after she uncovered the irregularities during the quarterly audit. Turns out she has a conscience. Who would have guessed?" Vanessa reached the door first. She paused with her hand on the handle. I never imagined it would end like this, she said quietly. It hasn't ended yet, I replied, but it will soon enough. They left separately, through different doors, headed in opposite directions, and instead of satisfaction, I felt something hollow settle in my chest. The confrontation I'd been preparing for over months had finally happened, but victory didn't feel the way I thought it would. The weeks that followed blurred together in a steady rhythm of legal meetings, reassuring clients, and long, silent evenings alone in the house that now felt both emptier and more mine than ever before. Jason moved into a downtown apartment, reportedly by himself. Vanessa returned to Phoenix, according to our mother's tearful phone call. She won't tell me what happened, Mom said, only that she made a terrible mistake. Some mistakes can't be undone, I replied softly, leaving it at that. The divorce moved forward quickly. The overwhelming proof I'd gathered, and Jason's sudden hesitation, once the financial investigation began, made sure of that. The Department of Financial Services froze several of his accounts while they conducted their review, leaving him with little ability to fight back. Then, on a crisp fall morning, I sat across from Patricia in her office and reviewed the final settlement offer. He's backing down, Patricia said, sliding the document across her desk toward me. He's withdrawing all claims on the business, the house, the mountain property, everything. I scanned the agreement. In return, I would drop the financial misconduct charges, and both of us would sign a strict non-disclosure agreement regarding the affairs. Patricia studied my face closely. This is more than we expected. He's protecting Olivia. That made sense. The Thornton family carried serious influence in the design world. If the scandal spread further, Olivia's reputation wouldn't survive it. Patricia nodded. Most likely, but this works in your favor. You walk away clean, with every asset intact. I didn't hesitate. I signed. And Vanessa? I asked. No movement from her side, Patricia replied. No legal filings. I don't believe she's pursuing anything. As I left Patricia's office, my phone chimed with a new email. It was from Theo Weber. The subject line had only one word: closure. The attached image showed Jason stepping out of a hotel beside yet another woman. Not me, not Vanessa, not Olivia. Some habits, it seemed, never changed. I deleted the email without opening the attachment. Some truths only existed to cause pain, and I was done allowing pain to rule my life. 6 months after signing the divorce papers, I stood inside the newly completed Lydia Harmon Design Studio in downtown Boulder. The space had once been crowded with Jason's oversized desk and heavy, dark furniture. Now it reflected my vision completely: open lines, natural textures, and sunlight flooding every corner, just like my home. Without him, the business had flourished. The Westbrook Group not only kept their contract, they expanded it. They hired me to design their new corporate headquarters in Denver. Even the Thorntons returned as clients after the initial shock, this time making sure Olivia was never present at any gathering where I might be. Work was thriving. Then my phone rang. Vanessa's name appeared on the screen for the first time since that day in my foyer. I hesitated before answering. Lydia, she said softly, I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to tell you how deeply sorry I am. I sat at my drafting table, staring at the mountains that had witnessed so much of my life. Why now? I asked. I'm in therapy, she explained. I'm trying to understand why I betrayed you, why I believed him. The silence between us stretched, heavy with 17 years of sisterhood and one devastating betrayal. He cheated before me, didn't he? She asked quietly. And after? Yes, I answered honestly. I believe there were others we never even uncovered. Another pause. Mom wants all of us together for Christmas, Vanessa said. I told her I would only come if you approved. I considered that carefully. Forgiveness couldn't be forced, but holding on to anger kept me locked in the past. I can't promise warmth, I told her, but I won't stand in the way of you being there. That's more than I deserve, she whispered. After we hung up, I returned to my sketches for the Westbrook project. The design was dominated by glass walls and carefully placed skylights, allowing light to flood what had once been shadowed and closed in. Some symbolism needs no explanation. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday. By Friday, I had changed the business name, repainted the office, and booked a solo trip to Barcelona, the one city Jason had always refused to visit because he couldn't speak Spanish. With every step away from that life, I felt lighter, more like myself. The betrayal by my husband and my sister had nearly broken me. But in rebuilding, I discovered parts of myself that had been silent for years. What they shattered healed stronger than ever. I made peace with both of them, not for their sake, but for my own. Revenge didn't arrive through destruction. It arrived through rising. They expected me to fall apart. Instead, I built something greater than they ever imagined. The real victory wasn't in watching them lose. It was in finally finding myself again.